Hi everybody, my name is Sarah Kirkup and I am in EDU 502. For my semester book, I read Educating Esme, Diary of a First Teacher by Esme Raji Kodel. Okay, so a little bit about this book. This book was a really good read. I think that anybody that is interested in being a teacher needs to read it. So first of all, Esme is starting her first year as a teacher for a 5th grade classroom. She has never taught before, and this is also a new school. So she's teaching at a lower income school in Chicago, and this whole entire book is about her diary from getting hired to the very end of the year and a couple little bits afterwards. I thought that the book was very helpful in learning different teaching strategies. There was also a lot of ways to show how to improve conflict with someone that's a little bit higher up than you and how to stick with your beliefs and knowing when to back down. And there was also a lot of learning how to comfort children when they were having some issues. So, for some themes in the book that I thought were really important that I wanted to point out was student engagement. So, Esme did a lot of after-school activities to try to get students motivated and in school. One of them that she did was she added a new literacy after-school program for a lot of students, which I thought was really fantastic. Another thing that she did was she knew that a lot of students would be interested in the American Girl dolls. So she went to the author, she wrote to her, asked if there was anything that she could do to try to get her to come to the school. The author agreed. Then all the students stayed after school to prepare for the presentation. And at the very end, they had a lottery and a little boy ended up winning the doll, which I thought was really great. And one of the last things that she did for student engagement was she had a oral storytelling club. So she would have kids come read books and then learn how to discuss them verbally and how to read them verbally. This was a big point to the book because the principal wasn't very supportive of it at first, but she got a grant for all of these books for the students, and when the people from the grant came, they were very excited. So, as I mentioned a couple times before, there was definitely a power struggle between her and the principal. Her principal was not totally approving of her teaching styles. So one example is she wanted the children to call her Madam Esme, which was not something that was okay to him. He felt that it was disrespecting him and disrespecting her, and it didn't provide a good student leadership. There was also seemed to be a lack of support. So when Esme was having problems with the principal, she didn't really get a lot of the teachers to understand where she was coming from, and I felt that they wanted her just to back down because they said that she was making it harder for everybody. Then she also was not getting as much support from the parents for students. There was a lot of students that had family issues. Some had parents that were in gangs or that weren't very involved in their lives. So she was really a pusher in trying to make sure that the students were involved. Another theme that was in the book is classroom management. So Esme used a lot of different tactics to try to get control of her classroom. One way she would do this was she would stick her thumb up, and every single time after she stuck her thumb up, she would expect the kids to get quiet and put their listening ears on and make sure that everyone's paying attention. Another thing that she did was there were some students that stole some books from her, and she took away all of the books. She wouldn't let any students read the books that she provided for them, that she paid for, not the school. And she made sure that they knew that that wasn't acceptable. And fortunately, the student ended up returning the book, and the library books came back. So, another big part of this book is culturally responsive teaching. I have learned a lot about this semester, and I'm a very big believer in it. So, to me, culturally responsive teaching is bringing culture and acceptance into the classroom. That way every child feels happy about who they are. So one way that Esme did this is a student of hers brought her in a sari. It's an Indian dress that's bright and colorful, and Esme immediately put it on, which I think really got the children excited about their culture. A mother called after and said that her daughter was very excited and wanted to wear one to school the next day. So I thought that that was something that was really great, and that's something that a teacher needs to do. And she also had her students learn about culture in a winter play. So that was great. Okay, so another thing that Esme did was she tried to improve the literacy of her students. A lot of the students here in this school were not meeting the requirements of their reading, and they struggled with their grammar, they struggled with reading, they struggled with talking about how they were feeling. They used words like ain't and don't in the wrong way. So she tried to do this by she improved reading skills by having a 20-minute free reading and journal time. So with the journal time, she would make sure that all the students were writing properly, and she would try to correct what they were writing so they understood. She also had them get into groups and discuss what they were reading, that way that they were having good reading comprehension skills. One area that she noticed that they really struggled in was phonetics. So she understood that the 5th graders were not interested in going through the alphabet again and all of the sounds. So what she did was she teamed them up with kindergarten students. So she gave every single student a alphabet letter, and for a good amount of time they all were studying, and at the very end they had a presentation for kindergartners, and so it was really helping them, but I think it made them feel like they weren't babies, which I thought was really a really good idea. So the end result of the book was that her children ended up getting the highest test scores in the school. She was asked back for a second year. Her students really did learn a lot from Esme. Esme ended up not staying after the second year. She went to a different school. It ended up being a more affluent school as a school librarian. She went back to their 8th grade graduation and saw some of her students graduate. And I really think that there was some really good takeaways from this. So, what is my takeaway? I learned a lot with this book. I think that it is something that really should be read by every first-year teacher. Because one thing that I learned is that teachers need to have classroom management skills. When Esme was writing in the diary, she pointed out some teachers that did not have control of the classroom. And that is the most important part as a teacher, because you need to think about the children's safety. You need to think about their learning environment. You need to make sure that they understand that you're the teacher and you're there to teach them. I think that you also need to be forgiving and kind. When the student she discovered was stealing the book, she was obviously firm, but wanted her to know that it was okay to make mistakes. I think teachers also need to be creative. This was a really bright, beautiful classroom that she had for the students, and this really gave them the chance to get into an environment where learning was fun. I also think that teachers sometimes need to stand up for themselves and what's important. I know that a lot of times young teachers, I think, want to please everybody, but her name as Madam Esme was something that was very important to her, as was her teaching style. She had more of a collaborative teaching style, which this school wasn't really accepting at the time, even though it ended up working and kids got really good grades. And I also think you need to have the interest of the child at heart. It's really important that the children understand that they are cared for and that you are there for them, and that you have to be their voice sometimes, even if that's talking to their parents about what's best for them or standing up to school administrators. So that was my takeaway, and this is my book that I really enjoyed. And that's it. That's Educating Esme, the Diary of a First Year Teacher. Thanks, guys. Bye.